why would you think that those are not possibly something from somewhere else?
It depends on how you want to pose the problem. So here's how I think about it. So I take Leslie Kean's a book on UFOs and pilots and generals go on the record and so on. In that book, she says 90 to 95% of all sightings have perfectly normal explanations.
I would probably agree that's true.
So the question is, what do we do with that other 5% of anomalies? Okay, no theory explains everything. There's always going to be anomalies in every scientific theory. What do you do with it? Nothing. You assign it to a graduate student to figure it out, or that's future research. Rather than going to a grand theory of visitation by aliens, or the Russians or Chinese have these super advanced technologies that we don't have, or we have them and they don't have. I mean, again, if we had this technology, surely the Russians have something pretty close to that. There's nothing from the videos in Ukraine of any Russian drones that act anything like these UAPs. Surely they would use this technology if they had it.
Well, we're assuming that those UAPs are military in nature and not something that they use to observe things.
It could be.
I mean, why would we assume that these things, if they're capable of behaving in this way and they're just some sort of a device that can travel at insane rates of speed, why would we assume that those things can launch missiles or act in a military capacity?
Right.
And there are UAP sightings over Ukraine.
Yeah, but so Avi did a nice paper on that showing that these were artillery shells and not what the other people said they thought it was, that it was like a drone or a plane or something weird like that. He showed that if it was what they thought it would have had a much bigger impact going through the atmosphere at that speed and burning up. But it didn't, so these are artillery shells. Anyway, he did a nice paper on that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, but what about these things that supposedly move far faster than the speed of sound without the sonic boom?
Yeah, how is that possible?
How is that possible?
That's right, it's not.
That's where it gets weird.
That's where it gets weird, right?
But
so
that's where
is it
the
really
question
moving?
Is it ours?
Is it really moving at that speed, or is it a misperception of the video, a miscalculation? Scientists make miscalculations of these sorts of things all the time.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was posed to David Fravor, and he said they have multiple sources of data. It's not just like one system that's monitoring these things. It's multiple systems.
Yeah. No, I follow these guys. I agree. They are incredibly credible, right? And they have good arguments. What do you do with the anomalies?
I think you're an anti-conspiracy theorist. That's what I think.
No, I'm a skeptic, Joe.
I know you are.
You
literally are the editor. Or
skeptic.
what's your position in Skeptic Magazine?
I'm the editor-in-chief, publisher of Skeptic Magazine.
There you're literally a skeptic.
Yeah, that is my day job.
Yeah.
But it isn't that I don't believe things. I believe the theory of evolution. I think the Big Bang Theory happened when people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and my quantum physics friends tell me quantum physics is true. This is how we know it. To me, it's weird, spooky. I don't really understand it, but okay. We have tons of evidence.
Have you seen some of the new discussions based on the observations from the James Webb telescope that maybe the Big Bang Theory needs to be revisited?
Yes, vaguely. It was the expansion rate changing, right, from the new...
Well, they're getting new data, right?
Right.
They're constantly getting new data, and we would assume that with more and more sophisticated ways of viewing the known universe, that we could possibly get some new data that would change our ideas of what the theory of the Big Bang Theory or the theory of the universe itself would be. And that's one of the things that they're discussing right now. What was that? There was a recent article. What was it in? Which scientific publication that they were discussing whether or not the Big Bang Theory needs to be revisited? It was based on the James Webb.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe, it would be astonishing if that didn't happen.
Right.
Because, no theory in science is permanent.
Especially
it's fixed.
It's not like right now we have all the information we have the entire universe mapped out, every planet, everything. We know exactly what it is. We know exactly how old everything is. And we know for sure. We just have a limited ability to look, right?
That's it. It's the limitations of our technology. So in the late 90s is when they discovered the universe is expanding at an accelerating rate. Well, how can that be? Because in an explosion, the initial explosion, the inflation in cosmology is really rapid. Then it slows and slows and slows. And so it was supposed to slow down in, another 10 billion years or something and maybe collapse back on itself. And then they discovered, oh, my God, no, these type 2 supernova, whatever it was, indicate that the expansion is accelerating. So there's this weird force, dark energy, that pushes it away. And dark matter is this, proffered thing that explains why galaxies are held together, because they don't have enough mass to hold them together in the structures that they are, as I understand it, and rotating the way they're rotating. So there's something else we can't see. So,
Right.
Now, so when astronomers talk about dark energy and dark matter to explain these two anomalies, like how could this be? That's not an explanation. It's just a linguistic placeholder until we figure out what it is.
Right.
So surely there is going to be some discoveries of some kind of new energy or some kind of matter that we don't know. A century from now, it's like, oh, of course, if you came back after being chronically frozen, oh, that's what it was. Oh.
So what would it take for you to look, what kind of discovery would it take in terms of UAPs for you to revisit your position and say it's highly likely that this is either something that we don't understand, that we are observing that's come from somewhere else, or something that we don't understand because it's technology that hasn't been released?
The actual specimen, the equivalent of the SR-71 Blackbird. I can go to the museum, I can see it, touch it, walk on it.
So do you
Everybody
hold it
knows
like,
about
do you have like a placeholder, like perhaps?
Yeah, I do. I
Okay.
do. Nothing's 100%, right? No.
Why
it's
is
just
it so fun, though, to think that it's from somewhere else? It's so much more fun to think that we're being visited than to think that our government has some super sophisticated, gravity propelling drones that somehow or another violate our laws of space time. And why is it so much more exciting to think that?
I think it's a religious impulse. I think it's an idea that it feels like we're not alone. And when you think about the narratives from different religions, that there's something, an agent, a person, a being, of something, not just matter, not just the laws of nature.
Space Daddy.
Yeah, like when Einstein says, well, like Spinoza's God, it's just the laws of nature are God. It's like, that's not particularly comforting. It's like, well, they don't even know I'm here, right? But the idea that they're out there, they're super advanced, and they know we're here, maybe they're even coming. It's like the day the earth stood still, right? That was a kind of that film. That was a Christ allegory. Remember, his earthly name was Mr. Carpenter in that film, in the first one, the 1951 film.
Oh, right.
Klaatu. But his earthly name was Mr.
Baratu Niktu.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was really a reflection of, and by the way, in the climax scene where the authorities kill him and they put him in the tomb. It's like the crucifixion of Jesus, and they put him in the tomb, and 3 days later he's resurrected. Well, and then she goes to the robot and says what you just said, Gort Klaatu Barada Nikto, and he goes there, burns a hole into the morgue, takes the body, takes it back to the spaceship, lays it on that slab, does some stuff with the lights, and he comes back to life. Now in the original script, she, the Mary Magdalene character woman, says, Patricia Neal, you mean this is the power that extraterrestrials have? And in the original one, he goes, yeah, we have the power of life and death. And the Breen Censorship Board in 1950 said, no, you can't say that to the American public. That's,
really?
Yeah. So if you
the censorship board?
Yeah, there was a Breen Censorship Board that censored films that said, you can't defend religious people is one of their criteria.
Offend.
Yeah. So
I
they
think you
changed.
said defend.
Yeah, yeah. So they changed the script. And now he says something like, "Oh no, we don't have the power. Only the Great Spirit in the sky or something has that power."
I didn't know that there was a censorship board that would monitor films and say you can't say these things.
Same way we have it for ratings, PG
but it's
ratings,
science fiction. They had censorship boards for science fiction, but they didn't for vampires.
Well, I mean, even Star Trek, the original series. I mean, Roddenberry had to sneak in a lot of anti-Vietnam War commentary through these characters, and had to be careful of how they were kind of presented, because censorship boards are like that. Captain Kirk, we always got the woman, but you never saw anything, right?
Right, but that's just
that's
how
normal.
things were back then. But
yeah.
I didn't know that they would have a censorship board that would say you can't offend religious people by saying that aliens have the power to bring things back from the dead.
Right, because there it kind of secularizes God. So in this scenario, I call this Shermer's Last Law, is one of my Scientific American columns. Any sufficiently advanced extraterrestrial intelligence would be indistinguishable from God.
UFOs that we back engineered, and now we can fly them around, and we can go visit other solar systems.
And we've created a new energy source.
Yeah,
we're going to save the planet.
Yeah. We would look like fools.
We'd also be set back.
Yeah, and if we realized that there would have been a bunch of people that were working on this stuff the whole time, but they had been handcuffed by all the secrecy, and that this had all been done with defense contractors and lying to Congress, It'd be a fucking national disaster. We would look completely incompetent.
I really legitimately think a lot of the people in my film stepped up because they don't want to be left holding the bag and have people saying, "Why didn't you say something sooner?"
Right.
I really think this is
because it's that close.
Cover your butt because it's that close.
So when people talk about the successful back engineering of these things, what are they saying? Are they saying that they can fly around Earth? Are they saying they can go outside of Earth's atmosphere and go into deep space with these things? Like, what have they said we are currently able to do with these back-engineered crafts that we've supposedly
people that I
made
can't
ourselves?
attribute the statement to that were very credible sources told me that some of the UAP activity in space specifically is reverse engineered technology.
Okay. Does that mean in space in low Earth orbit, or does that mean traveling through the solar system?
What was implied to me was traveling through the solar system.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So are these
Here's another thing
manned?
that same person said to me, by the way.
Yes.
So before I forget, that their belief is that the technology we have would not be pulled out even to stop a world war. It would not; those cards would not be shown until moments before, like, a nuclear war situation. So they wouldn't pull it out to stop like any of the wars we've experienced in the last, since World War II. They wouldn't, regardless of how many.
It has to get to 9.
It has to get to a level where there's no other option.
Wow.
Because it's show your cards.
Now, when they say that they've traveled through the solar system, is this biological human beings, or are these drone crafts? Like, what are they saying?
I never got any of that. All I was told is there's some of the UAPs that are seen, that have been seen by our astronauts on space missions, are non-human intelligent life, and some are reverse engineered craft. That's what I was told.
But we don't know whether there's a person inside of them.
I don't.
If they are reverse engineered and they are ours, and we figured out how to make our own.
That I don't know.
Yeah, I need to know that.
Yeah.
That's kind of important.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Is there fucking some dude named Bob flying through space? Some Top Gun guy that they've given the task of traveling to Venus real quick?
Wouldn't surprise me. One of the other things that, we were talking about Clapper and Rubio and what they said about China. Something else that they both said, despite these guys being completely ideologically opposed, right? Like, they have nothing else in common. They both spoke to how we as a species, not just our country, but the entire human species, is held back by this. The fact that there's something in the human psyche that says I can't prepare for or wrap my head around something I haven't experienced yet.
Right.
And how that leads to strategic surprise because you're not preparing for something that can ultimately end up happening. And Rubio makes great examples. He says, we didn't think the Japanese could torpedo us at Pearl Harbor till they figured it out, and they did, right? We didn't think that terrorists were going to come here and learn how to fly commercial airplanes and use them in a terror attack until they did. And with this, he's like, we don't want strategic surprise to lead to a disaster on this front. We need to be ahead of it. And he very powerfully says that, often strategic surprise changes the course of human history.
So this is the question. If we have craft that we can travel through the solar system, we meaning someone in the United States of America, does China? Do they have the same ability right now? Is there an understanding of where they're at in the race versus us?
Everyone who talked about the race with China was extremely concerned about how close they were. And multiple people talked about how these incursions over our sensitive bases and nukes could, in fact, be reverse engineered Chinese craft. So it is a scary situation. I mean, look, you can ask the average person a common sense question. Knowing what you know about the dynamic between China and the United States, would you be okay if they were the only country that had a nuclear weapon? The answer is no, right?
Right.
So would you want them to be the only country that has technology more powerful than a nuclear weapon that could be weaponized in a way that's more destructive than a nuclear weapon? No.
But what technology do they have other than the ability to travel? What other observed technology do they have?
If you weaponize this technology, like, let's just take something like the Tic Tac. Mm-hmm. Imagine you could
travel
take something like that
anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and put a nuclear weapon in there.
Right. You would have a nuclear weapon that goes off in less than a second on the other side of the world.
It's completely undetectable to any sensor system. You can't react to it.
Yeah.
bad news. It also, these vehicles display the ability to be transmedium. So you could put a nuke through any environment. It's very scary.
Well, so transmedium, does that mean, I know that it can go in the air and in the water, but does that mean it can go through actual physical objects?
Yeah.
So this is one of the things in one of the crazier Jacques Vallée stories that I've read a few of his books. And one of the more bizarre ones, this woman found this object in on her property, some large property. Oh, I want to say it's Nevada. I forget where it was, California, Nevada. But anyway, this egg-shaped large object, and that as it took off, it flew through the trees.
Yeah.
She said it didn't disturb the trees; it just went right through them.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, look, one of those. If you remember in the film, there's this great scene where Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis, who are two of the senior scientists involved with the government UAP programs, they break down how they figured out how these craft work and how they are warping space-time in a localized area, and they're basically creating a bubble that the craft operates in, and the bubble separates the craft from the environment around it. The environment becomes irrelevant. So it can move through physical space, could move from air to space to the water, frictionless, there's no splash. Like the environment outside the bubble is irrelevant. They're creating their own space-time essentially. They're warping space-time and creating a bubble around the craft. And when you start to think about how that could be weaponized, it's really terrifying.
And what is he saying that they're using? Like, how are they?
He's saying that they're creating an immense amount of energy in this localized area to create the bubble. And there's two prevailing thoughts on how that energy is created. One is they're tapping into so-called zero-point energy, which has only been theorized at this point by humans, right? Or they're using quantum entanglement to pull energy from a far-off source to the local area, the bubble. And that's what they figured out.
And do they have any knowledge of these generators or how they're acquiring this amount of power, or what they're using to, how are they harnessing zero-point energy?
No.
But if we've got one and we've back engineered it successfully, clearly someone must know.
Yeah.
So someone knows.
Look, Hal and Eric got very close with the scientists in the Legacy program, and were sharing information, and that got shut down by the CIA. So before it got shut down, they learned a lot about what we've been doing secretly and what we've been figuring out.
Jeez. So it's the fucking CIA.
Well, look, the film reveals that the Legacy program, the craft retrieval reverse engineering program, it has several elements. It's elements of the Air Force, it's elements of the Department of Energy, it's elements of the CIA, and it's defense contractors. And the CIA is the quarterback of the whole thing. The Air Force is used for recovery, like field work, essentially. They have teams that can, react fast and go to a site and collect materials and classify it, and they have the aircraft to bring it back to a base. The defense contractors have the technology, know-how, and the engineering skills to do the reverse engineering. The Department of Energy has laws that can be used to classify the material outside of, the president's reach and Congress's reach. They also have, people who are experts at anything that gives off a lot of radiation and energy. And then the CIA quarterbacks the whole thing. Think of them as like operational control. And this is revealed by a number of people in the film, and every single source I talked to. There were a lot of people, Joe, that I talked to in very senior positions that thought the film was important and the only way to bring the truth out to the public, but they couldn't be on camera. And they guided me, filled in gaps for me, helped me understand the lay of the land. There were some people that told me not to interview. There was a couple people that were sent to me. People wanted to trick me into including them in the film,
really,
because they were crazy people. And I didn't include them. I got tipped off by people. Don't stay clear of that. That's someone's agenda trying to sink your ship.
Right.
But I had a lot of folks helping. The Senate Intelligence Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee were extremely supportive. And, I really don't think I would have been able to pull off making the film I did if not for their help. And Rubio, when I started my process, was the vice chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And he had already learned a lot about what has been hidden from Congress, and thought that what I was doing was really the only way to bring it out, because none of these people on their own would go out on a limb by themselves and become subject to ridicule. They didn't want to be the one guy out there saying all this extraordinary stuff, right? not only because there's this antiquated cultural stigma where they could be made fun of or their reputation could be damaged, but there's also this security system around the deeply hidden Crash or Shield program that for years has just targeted anyone who speaks up. And so what I basically put together was a way for them to safely do it and have strength in numbers and be arm in arm with, several dozen other people. And once Rubio leaned into that, I just started getting tremendous support from the Armed Services Committee and the Intelligence Committee. And then Senator Rounds became very helpful behind the scenes. Intelligence officials who worked this topic, like Jay Stratton and Lou Elizondo and Hal Pudoff, were extremely helpful behind the scenes, opening doors, introducing me to people. I think that I think this is really the only way we were gonna get this level of information out, by giving people that safety in numbers. And then after this, it's going to require the kind of amnesty we talked about, because this is only what they can lawfully disclose. There's so much more.
So when it comes to underwater stuff, this is what Tim Burchett was talking about when that person was famously interviewing him, and everybody was like, "What? You're just walking across the street casually talking about bases?
Yeah,
where they're coming out of the ocean?
Yeah, it's crazy.
What do they think that is? Is that different from what's going on in the sky?
No, they think it's the same. They think it's the same crafts. They think
so. They have a base.
More simply put, if you were here with advanced aircraft and you wanted to hide from humanity, the most logical place is the ocean. Mm-hmm. It's the majority of our planet. We've barely studied it. We've one of the admirals in my film says we've scanned the surface of the moon in more detail than we have the bottom of our oceans. Yeah, it's crazy how much is unexplored, right? Right. And so it's the most obvious place to hide. There's a lot of activity that happens in the oceans. One of the people I talked to who thought they would be in the film and then decided it was too risky for them was a special forces guy who was involved in a recovery of a craft that was in the ocean, and when they were recovering it, a giant craft came up next to them, like a functioning craft, and the helicopter pulled out and they dropped the line and the helicopter took off, and the SEAL was in the water and watched this thing take off, and then he had to be recovered out of the water. And that's crazy.
And the craft that they were trying to recover, it went down? Yeah, it went down. And did the big ship take it or anything? Or
they actually literally said that. They said it took it and went back down.
Yo.
Yeah.
How big was the big one?
They said it was big.
Just big.
That's the only word they used, to be honest. Yeah. And the guy was rattled because the guy
was in the water.
The SEAL was in the water hooking a line to this craft. And then when the helicopter pulled out, he said he was in the water just shitting his pants and taking in this extraordinary experience. And then
was he wearing a vest?
I'm sure he's wearing his frogman outfit.
Doggy paddling. Let's just leave him there in the fucking water. These guys panic and pull out. Maybe the UFO would have let you home from the Comedy Store at 2, and then I watched some goofy. I've been on this UFO documentary kick.
Watching UFO documentaries?
Yeah, I told you it was David. I started talking about it.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah. What were you? Did you have something specific that you saw recently?
Yeah,
the documentary.
2 of them. One of them is Area 51, Bob Lazar, and Area 51 and Flying Saucers. It's a documentary on this guy who claimed that he worked on these alien ships in Area 51 in the 1980s.
That gave me chills.
As time's gone on, more of the things that he said have proven to actually be true.
Like what?
Including an element that he talked about, Element 115, I think it was called.
Like an organism from outer space?
No, an element, like a man-created element, like this carbon.
Right.
There's an element that they created that he talked about way before it was ever publicized. And he talked about this thing, and then it turned out to be true. He talked about these, there's these hand monitors that you would put your hand on this thing, and these metal lines would detect the distances in the bones of your fingers, the exact distances, and everyone is different. It's like a signature thing. Mm-hmm. And that they could find out if it was you or not you that was trying to go through. So the way they would scan people, the bioscan, would literally measure the bones in their fingers. And people said that was horseshit.
Wild.
He talked about this in the 1980s. People said it was horseshit, but then later on turned out, no, they did have that in Los Alamos. They did have that in Area 51, and that this technology was very, very
Advanced.
very not just very advanced, but very not. It was not well known at all. Like very few people did. And this guy who was creator of this documentary, it was very difficult for them to get photos of this hand scanner. But this hand scanner did exist and existed exactly as this guy described it.
In the 80s, I mean, that's super progressive for that time.
There's also
even for
people
now.
that did approve his top secret clearance to get to this place. They know that he actually worked there. There's people that worked in the same Los Alamos lab with him. They tried to say he never worked there, but his name's on the manifest. It's very strange. It's like they've tried to erase parts of this guy's past because he filmed a bunch of their crafts as they were flying around. Like he knew what days. This is the thing. That thing right there, you put your hand on that, and it actually measures the distance of the size and length of your bones.
That looks like something that's inside of an escape room in L.A.
It does. It's hilarious. It's so true. But
Doesn't it?
I went into this documentary skeptical.
As you should.
Yeah, but I'm so done with all those things. But listen to this guy talk for a while. After a while, I was like, what if he's telling the truth? Like, what if he is actually telling the truth? Because if he's actually telling the truth, there is some part of the government that had access, at least in the 1980s, to alien technology.
I mean,
There
it
was
probably
spaceships.
is. There probably is some truth to that. Crazier things have happened. And also, like, just your mentality of believing him is probably the same thing that made Dr. Malachi Lovejoy Robinson III become successful.
A con artist?
Yeah. I mean, either this dude, there's validity of what he's saying in this documentary, which I can't wait to watch, or he's just really great at painting a picture. Some people are so good at convincing you
That's true.
of truths.
True.
There's, people with like borderline personality disorder and every sort of spectrum in between there. They become really good manipulators.
That is true. However, usually they do that in more than one avenue.
Absolutely.
And this guy's not doing that.
Yeah. So if
He's
it's just a
really-
documentary, then
Yeah, also hasn't varied his story. Like, I mean, he might have like changed the way he says things in terms of like the words he chooses, but the actual story is exactly the same as he was telling a long time ago.
Is this a self-produced documentary, or is
No.
there a production company involved?
No, a production company
See, that's where
involved.
it's like, okay, there's probably some validity to this.
But this guy's been around for a long time. I remember reading about him and watching videos about him, 20 years ago.
I mean, don't you think you're somebody who you said and I know this about you. You love space. You're obsessed with that. The idea of what we are in the solar system and beyond. Like, how impossible is it to think that there could be a creature that could breach our atmosphere with some advanced technology and be able to just sort of chill, scoot around, scoots, magoots, check us out, and fucking peace out back up to wherever they're from.
I don't think that's how they would do it, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know exactly. They scoots,
Scoots, magoots.
Yeah, they just kind of cruise around. They're looking at us.
Well, he had an interesting
Little
analogy.
reconnaissance.
He said if you brought an atomic engine to these people that live in the Victorian era and said, "Hey, this is a nuclear power plant. Like here, check this out." They would fuck with it. They'd wind up getting sick from radiation. They'd wind up dying. No one would understand what it was or how it worked. They would never figure it out.
Right.
He goes, why would we assume that this is only from that one time with this one device? Why wouldn't we assume that there'd be some other technology that maybe we'll create someday in the future? I'm paraphrasing him very poorly.
Yes, it's okay.
Or someone
You're a
else
scientist.
from another planet would create that we wouldn't understand at all. And he said, and that's what we were dealing with when we were trying to back engineer the propulsion systems that these things use. They use some gravity-based propulsion system. And it was something that would manipulate gravity in front of it. I'm too stupid to know the science of it. I don't know if he's if you were
You're
a scientist,
You're supposed to know these things.
not yet. I have to get my degree.
Joseph
I need
Rogan.
to get a degree so I can call myself a doctor.
You should.
I just want to get an honorary one like Cosby had.
Why? It's gone now. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it anymore.
Back.
They
The
took that
honorary
shit
ones
back.
they could take back.
Yeah, take them back. He can't keep those.
Yeah.
He can't keep that.
Actually, I think he wrote an essay, and that's how they gave him his doctorate.
I
But that's
mean,
neither here nor there.
gross.
Probably got more than one doctorate.
I'm sure he did, and he didn't deserve them. But I think, there's got to be stuff out there.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
But I like to say there's not. It's like, stop.
You think
Stop
this is just
dwelling
it?
No, I don't think it is. But it is entirely possible. I use that phrase too often.
And it's entirely possible.
Yeah.
You got to get a
get a
mashup of
new
all
one.
of those.
Oh, it's already out there. Yeah. It's hilarious. It's like 150,000 of them.
That needs to be on a shirt.
It's possible that we're the most advanced. That's possible.
It is a possibility.
too, because something has to be the most advanced.
Absolutely, and something has to be the least. We could also be on that part of the spectrum.
Sure.
Maybe we're the last to evolve.
It's 100% possible. Like if there's an infinite number of life forms out there, like if there's an infinite number of planets and there's an infinite number of Earth-like planets that can have beings like us on it, who's to say that we're not the most advanced? Maybe they're all like people from the 1820s.
Yeah, they're
they
still
haven't caught up to us
chiseling
yet.
shit. They're still doing,
I don't think they chiseled in the 1820s.
stone and chisels. But I'm talking like old shit. They don't even have pens and papers yet.
Like the orangutan that was fishing with a spear.
Exactly. There's just a bunch of advanced orangutans that are like, putting hieroglyphics in caves.
It's possible.
It is very possible.
It's totally possible.
But because we're just basing it off of our own experience and
Right.
perception of what we have been exposed to. We have no idea.
The other really interesting scenario is that they're time travelers.
Ooh, that's
that
that's exciting to think
what
about.
they are is some being from the far distant future that understands that it could come back and observe us and see like where things went wrong, where things went right, but do so in a way that's as minimally intrusive as possible and occasionally interfere with things.